You're listening to Parents You've Got This, the expert guide to parenthood, the complete guide to fertility, pregnancy, birth, baby and parenthood. This podcast is proudly supported by Mustela, a natural origin skincare for babies and children, recommended by healthcare professionals. Mustela by Parents' Side since 1950.
Being a parent is just the best, but sometimes it can be just the worst, and that is when you get things like headlice and nits. We love tackling those tricky topics on the Expert Guide to Parenthood podcast, and today we've got our paediatrician expert back on to give us her tips and tricks.
We welcome Dr. Lexi Frydenberg, who is a general paediatrician working with all little ones from when they are newborn all the way through to 18 years of age and their families. She works in both public and private practice, and she is widely known in the media circuit too, so you probably recognise her. Thank you so much, Lexi, for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Now, let's kick it off. I think we're all feeling a little itchy sitting here, but let's kick it off with talking about head lice. What is head lice? It's one of those things that just makes you...
Yeah, and unfortunately I've got way too much experience from being the mother of three teens from their childhood. But head lice are very small, wingless little insects that are really hard to see with the naked eye, and they live in human hair. They live on the scalp and they feed off the skin of the head and spread really, really easily. So you won't often see them with the naked eye, but they're there.
And so how are nits different to head lice, or are they the same?
So there's often confusion about that. Nits is the name of the eggs that are laid by the head lice, and nits stick to the individual hair and they are pretty close to the scalp, and they remain attached to the hair even after the eggs have hatched. So head lice and nits are two different things, but it's the same cycle.
And how do you know if you have head lice, Lexi?
If you haven't had it, Freya, I think most of us have had it, know pretty quickly, because you often get a really itchy head. But it's important to know there are other reasons why kids might itch and scratch their head. So they might have eczema, they might be really sweaty. So not all itch is head lice. And interestingly, some people who have a lot of head lice are not itchy. So itch is the most common, but it's not a definite. But you also might see, as I did, head lice crawling down the back of the neck. So when one of my children, I won't name them, was young, we'd never had head lice in the family. We were out and I just looked and I saw hundreds upon hundreds of little animals crawling down the back of his neck and behind his ears. Wow. And I never wanted to see that again. So, as I said, hard to see with the naked eye, but if there's a lot of them, you might see them moving.
Gosh, and how do you get rid of them, Lexi?
So, head lice, as I mentioned, are really hard to find. So you need to look for them first before you obviously get rid of them. The best place to look for them are close to the scalp, behind the ears, or as I mentioned, at the back of the neck. And the best way to find and remove head lice is putting hair conditioner, and I often use quite a lot of hair conditioner in the child's hair. It makes it easier to comb, and the conditioner actually slows the head lice down and traps them, so it makes them easier to find. When you're starting the process of looking for these head lice, you need to put some time aside because it is time consuming. You have to separate the hair into sections. So easier in some kids who have really short hair, much harder in some kids who have really long hair. But separate it into sections, and then what you want to do is comb the conditioner through each section of the hair. Usually I start with an ordinary comb or a brush, and then I use the head lice comb that comes in a kit usually. And once you've combed that section of hair with the head lice comb, then you need to wipe it on a tissue, usually a white tissue. I use baby wipes or wet wipes because it's much easier to see. And then you'll often see those head lice or the nits. So head lice themselves usually look brown or light brown, and the nits usually look a bit white or grey white, but they're the size of a grain of salt. So you actually have to look carefully. A lot of head lice kits that come with the comb also have a magnifying glass, so you can actually see them when you're putting them on your piece of wet wipe, and I found that really helpful myself. So that's the way you can look for the head lice and nits, and then we can talk about how to treat them once you find them.
Lexi, just on that, when you're looking for them, so are there prime places that they're easier to spot? Is it sort of, behind the ears or top of the head?
Great question. So they like to be near the scalp. So often you start near the scalp, but often also behind the ears and at the nape of the neck. So they're the main areas you look. But once again, you want to be really careful with it and start near the scalp and look all the way down, section by section. And you often have to do each section multiple times as well if you do find them.
Sounds like a good bonding experience for you, your child.
Or them screaming.
Or not. Exactly. Traumatic experience.
I reckon with 3 children, probably 5 to 10 years, we had this cycle going. So a lot of experience, and unfortunately, often adults get it too, much less common, but I spent a lot of time checking my own long hair for head lice.
Oh, so how do you get rid of them, Lexi?
Yeah, good question. So there are 2 main types of treatment. So one is the mechanical removal, the conditioning method, and that we've started to talk about, the wet comb treatment. And another is the head lice lotions or shampoos that you might see at the chemist. So we'll start with the mechanical removal. So it's the same process as when you're looking for the lice. You're using the conditioner treatment, but then you look and you found them. So you can start to try and get rid of them at the same time. Separating that hair into sections, combing with the head lice comb, and then you just got to keep combing each section 4 or 5 times, trying to get rid of all the lice and nits that you can find. And when you finish doing that, you rinse the conditioner out and dry the hair. But one of the important things is you've got to actually repeat it. So repeat those steps. Often every second day for about 10 days, because the nits can actually lay eggs for 7 to 10 days. So even if you've got rid of all of them once, they may still lay eggs over the next few days. So you've got to just keep repeating that treatment. So that's called the wet comb or conditioner method. As I said, it's pretty easy to do, but it can be time consuming, but often very effective. The other method is to use head lice lotion or shampoo that you can buy at the chemist. Now, it's really important that you buy a treatment from the chemist and probably not over the internet, because there are different chemicals available in different countries, and all the ones in Australia have been tested. So the active ingredients in these treatments are often insecticides. They're chemicals that are used to kill the insects, which are the head lice. But they have been shown to be safe and effective for treating head lice, the ones we use in Australia. So with that, as I mentioned, only use the head lice treatments, follow the instructions on the pack, don't use in the younger babies under 6 months, and be extra careful in babies under 12 months or in those kids who have eczema or, have inflammation or irritation of their scalp, because the insecticides themselves can be a bit irritating. If you're using the lotion, it's good to apply it to dry hair. If you're using the shampoo, it's good to apply it to wet hair, but not using too much water. It's really important, both methods, to cover all parts of the hair, but especially the area close to the scalp, so not just the ends of the hair. And a bit of a tip is to cover your child's eye with the towel while you're doing it, because you don't want the insecticide or the lotion shampoo to get into their eyes. Once the treatment's done, you've followed the instructions, comb through the hair again with that head lice comb, and just remember that none of the insecticides kill 100% of the head lice and nits. So once again, you usually need that second application 7 to 10 days later. If you do keep getting head lice or nits, or if your child keeps getting them, it may be that then those head lice are not sensitive to the lotion or treatment you've used. So have a chat to the pharmacist and you might use an alternative one. So they're the 2 main methods, but it's quite, most of us need to do it many times. Once you've done it, you'll get really familiar, but it's a bit overwhelming that first time.
So Lexi, obviously you treat the child who you suspect has got nits. What about ourselves and the rest of the family? Do we need to be treating the whole family if one person has nits?
So it's a bit controversial. Many of us would go, you've got to treat everyone, otherwise we keep catching it. because it's so common, if it was my family, I would have had to be treating 5 of us every week for about 5 or 10 years. So my approach to it is when a child has lice, check the whole family with the condition and method and treat those who you see the lice, but not necessarily have to treat every time everyone unless you actually find those lice or the eggs.
I know that can be hard, couldn't it? Because sometimes it's just like a friend. And so I think sometimes it's hard as it is. It's like ringing the school and saying they've got head lice and telling their close circle of friends that they've got it, just so you don't have to get it back again.
Yeah. And I think checking your child for head lice when you get one of those calls or notices from the school, really, really important. But it doesn't necessarily mean you have to actively treat or use the insecticide every time if you don't find those lice at that time.
And then, Lexi, what are your top tips to ensure that we don't get them back again?
So I wish I would have known some of these a while ago, but lice are easily spared from close contact. So when our heads are close together, so really I recommend not sharing hats between your children, not sharing combs, so labelling their combs or their hairbrushes, washing the pillowcase of the child who has head lice in hot water, and really importantly, don't forget that second treatment, that 7 to 10 days later treatment, as the eggs may have hatched and no lice treatment would have killed all those eggs. If you do have a child who keeps getting it over and over, there is actually a really effective medication that a doctor can prescribe called ivermectin, and it's very good at killing lice. So I wouldn't do it if it's the first or second or third time, but if you're not winning, have a chat to your health professional.
Yeah, that's good advice. And also look at their car seat, do the car seat where they sit to watch TV, put their head on a mat, they can stay alive for a few days, and you really do want to get rid of them. Well, thank you so much, Lexi, for sharing all your tips and tricks. You're always such a gem.
A huge thanks to Mustela for sponsoring this episode. Establishing a daily routine with your child can be beneficial for the whole family. Simplify your bath time routine with Mustela's Gentle Cleansing Gel and Hydra Baby Body Lotion. These are products with natural ingredients and a dermatologist and paediatrician tested. Mustela is our family's favourite.
You've been listening to the Expert Guide to Parenthood podcast. You never forget, parents. You've got this.
Join a Parents You've Got This masterclass today to be prepared, excited and educated for pregnancy, birth, baby and parenthood. Visit www.parentsyou'vegotthis.com.au and sign up for a masterclass today.
The information provided in this podcast is general in nature and is intended to support, not replace, a discussion with your doctor or healthcare professional. Parents You've Got This take no responsibility for any medical decisions made by individuals based on the information provided in this podcast.